You guys all know the music, but do you know that I have Gary from Hoops and Cards with me right now for an episode of the Basketball Card Strategy Show? My main man, Gary. What's up, man?
Paul? How are you, man? How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you too. Hoops and Cards, the pod, hoopsandcards.com. How's everything going with you?
It's going well, man. Loving the playoffs, and it's a roller coaster ride with the card market. But no, I'm doing well, trying to stay afloat with 3 teenagers in our house and a lot of sports stuff going on. But yeah, hanging in there.
Speaking of trying to stay afloat, go to bobscardmarket.com and join the Discord and try to stay afloat on that Discord because there's a lot going on there. Bobscardmarket.com. Join the Discord. They're a loyal sponsor of the show, so we need to give them a shout out. Today's episode brought to you by bobscardmarket.com. And Gary, I don't know if you're a Discord guy or not. Does Hoops and Cards have a Discord?
We do have a Discord, and it's mainly basketball card collectors and investors. It's a blast too. So yeah.
Nice.
Love for you to check us out on Instagram at Hoops and Cards.
Yeah, check that out. Check out Gary on Instagram at Hoops and Cards and search for the Hoops and Cards pod. Gary brings it strong on all things Hoops and Cards talk, but today we're here to talk about how to make money flipping basketball cards. But Gary, we need to dig deep, right, and get creative because it's one of those times a year where you're basically buying football cards.
Yeah. I feel like with basketball cards right now, it's like how to not lose money.
Yeah.
Like we're about to go into the offseason, and a lot of teams already are. And so, I mean, I see, as you've seen, people dumping isn't the right word yet, but they're getting out of basketball cards and buying into everything else that's about to,
Yeah.
Baseball, football. Yeah.
It does feel that way. It does feel a little bit like people, understandably want to liquidate some of the cards that they've been holding all basketball season, regardless of how things are going. And so I think that I see, like, I don't know if you've caught any of the episodes of our sports card strategy show recently, but we've had these situations where like the Anthony Edwardses and the Tyrese Maxeys of the world are basically their bigger cards are like a wash. So like their contenders, rookie ticket autos, even in the high grades, like Anthony Edwards, Donruss optic auto, like all those kinds of cards are basically a wash, which isn't horrible because you're kind of getting out what you put in and you got to hold it and try to make a play, but the play didn't really work out, I think, the way that a lot of us wanted it to. So it kind of brings me to tee you up for what kinds of things are you thinking about in terms of plays to make for basketball right now? You mentioned being smart about not putting yourself in a position where you'll lose money, but is there anything you're looking at maybe buying right now from a basketball card standpoint that's a little bit creative?
Yeah, I think for my personal collection, I have to view cards a little bit differently because right now those are going to take a hit or they already have been. But for investing, I'm looking at the cards I have right now and saying, how attached am I? Because this card is going to be worth 20% less in 3 months. We're going into basketball card purgatory. I don't have a better word for it, but like,
yeah.
And so looking at my cards and saying, what can I part with now that maybe I could buy back in 3 or 4 months? And as far as buying basketball cards, I am making a shopping list for those later months and saying, I mean, I don't know how you guys track your card budget or what you have, but the cards that I've been selling, I'm setting some of that money aside for like a shopping spree in October and November. I'm filling up my eBay watch list with cards that are unique, and we'll get into some of those, like game worn stuff of the GOATs, players like LeBron James and Steph Curry. Like those prices are coming down, and I'm seeing people selling them for cheaper. And so I put them in my watch list. I'm like, there's a part of me that just wants to click buy it now, and I'm like, I got to drink my own Kool-Aid here and say, just wait. There's going to be better cards and better deals, right?
Yeah, you talked about in our show notes, investing in a legacy. So focusing on LeBron and Steph long-term and their trajectories as players in card markets. So you're thinking with those two guys specifically to make a shopping list and just monitor them over the summer and see what deals you can get. I think that's smart because I think over the summer we're going to have a lot of people focused on, especially in July, focused on buying the Burrows, the Trevor Lawrences, the Jalen Hurtses of the world, even Mahomes. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to go maybe go back to the Josh Allen well for another try, things like that.
Right.
So I think that looking at basketball cards in the summer makes sense. Let me ask you a question, though. Let me just dissect one thing you said, because I think you and we've had some debates on Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, things like that.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a question around the timing of the market. So for me, I've seen a pattern of looking at basketball card prices being really, really bottoming out in August and then starting to rise in October based on the preseason and the hype of basketball coming back around and tipping off again in late October. And then sort of being on a up and to the right slight movement in November, but then dipping back down in December. So one thing you said a minute ago was you're looking to buy in October and November.
That's right.
Is there a specific pattern that you and I are a little bit off. Let's talk about that because I think it's a good thing to talk about in front of the audience. I would be looking at buying in August or December, and I would look at October and November as a pocket to sell. But where are we off on that? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? And before you answer that question, good morning to Chad Gill, Evan.
Hey, Chad, what's up, dude?
Oh, my shoes.
Yes, sir.
The crew. Good morning, crew.
What's up, crew? Yeah, Paul, last season I was with you. I was like, buy in August, and you'll start to see the NBA card values going up September, October, preseason, anticipating the new rookie class, the new, the next chapter of Ja Morant, Anthony Edwards, and those guys. And we weren't wrong on that. But I had a guy, a friend of mine who is in our Discord, Brett from Splash Hit Sports Cards. He is into all sports, and so he was at the time encouraging me, hey, focus on GOATs, wait till November and December for NBA cards, even early January. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, whatever, Brett, like I know the NBA, like that's my lane.
Shut up, Brett.
Yeah. And what happens basically,
we love you, Brett, by the way.
We do love you, Brett. What happens is what you're talking about, the initial wave of NBA season coming back, the big names do start to rise. The people that everybody knows about, like Ja Morant, Zion Williamson, certainly Victor Wembanyama this year. You're going to see exactly what you described. And that might be only 1% of players in the NBA, the Luka, the people that are like the top-notch, hyped in the sports card market, the people every dealer knows about, and knows about their greatness and knows about their liquidity or how quick they are to sell. So you're right. But so am I when it comes to the other 98% of players. See, I look at the Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders, the Mikal Bridges, the guys that played like all-stars for 3 or 4 months this season. They will not go up unless there's some big trade or something happens, or they drop 60 on game one and everybody freaks out. Like generally, the curve on NBA does not start to tick up. Now, that might change if the new release times. That screwed everything up too. The NBA new releases have been behind like a year.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting rookies of Paolo Banchero until his rookie season's almost over. So that could impact things. But for the most part, people are waiting till the football season and playoff rush, and then January when you see more primetime games of the NBA, you see the playoff races start to take shape. You see guys that have started to have all-star campaigns, and so January feels like when people turn their attention and they're spending money more towards the NBA as a whole, not just the big name, Kobe, not just the top dogs.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, totally. So good stuff from Brett. Brett is in the house. He is.
Hey,
Bandit. What's up, man?
Did you like that shout out, Brett? Like you won me over, man. It is not buying time in the NBA, like at large, until like November, December.
Interesting. Okay.
And perhaps that's because, and Brett can chime in, perhaps that's because he sees look, there are better buying opportunities for investors or for short term, like flippers, in the months of August, September, and October than to just get early on the NBA wave. So he's
that kind of lines up with my patience level.
Discerning spender, yeah.
Right? Like, I think everybody who listens to the show understands I'm in the shorter window, so that makes sense. So, good morning to Rocky Empire Sports Cards. Good to see you. Real quick, Gary, before we move on to the next topic, because I'm still interested in this. So, what are you saying is the best time to sell then? So, because this is a selfish question, but I think it applies to the audience. I'm holding a bunch of Cade Cunninghams, and it may just depend on it. We might be in a situation in 2023, 2024, where maybe it depends on the player. Like, maybe it's more player specific on when is the best time to sell. So in other words, there might be like, I'm interested in your take on this, but let's say Cade has positive news in the offseason about his recovery. Looks like he's going to looks like he's going to come back full speed for training camp. All that stuff's lining up. That could be a good time just when he's in the news cycle to sell him, because what we could see is like maybe he plays well in 2023, 24, but maybe he's not doing anything spectacular, right? Maybe there's nothing going on in Detroit that's spectacular that would really move the needle. What are your thoughts on like, not necessarily the best time to sell Cade Cunningham, but just the overall thought process of if we're saying that the best time to buy is more of November, December, when are we saying is generally the best time to sell, or are we saying maybe that's not there anymore and you have to take it on more of a case-by-case basis?
Yeah, I agree with you on player and case-by-case basis. And what I like to do is I use eBay a lot for selling. If it's a card I know I've got as an investment or a short-term investment, I will list the card at a buy it now price that I would be willing to sell it at should that guy make the news. So if there's good news about Cade Cunningham and there is a bump, I'll start to get offers, or somebody will just buy that thing if I've set it at like a reasonable price, right? So I like at least putting it out there and saying it's for sale, whether that's in person at a show or on eBay somewhere, so that you can take advantage of that bump. The other thing I'd say too with selling or buying right now is, what's your risk tolerance? Like I would stay away from Cade Cunningham completely for 5 or 6 months, unless they draft Victor Wembanyama and it looks like Detroit's like living your dream of returning to the glory days.
Well, no, that's what I'm hoping for.
Right. And there's no denying Cade Cunningham's talent, or I could say the same about LaMelo or Zion. My risk tolerance is to say, how many years are these young guys going to get injured or shut down for 40 games, and I'm sitting here holding the bag? Like, I think that's hit Cade Cunningham investors hard, and some of you are holding on for the ride. He's great. Like, he's got all that potential. I just don't have the risk tolerance to stick with him.
Yeah, that's a good point. And this is another thing I love about basketball card investing and flipping, and sports cards in general, obviously, but is like there's a little bit of we're constantly learning, we're constantly figuring out what makes sense in the moment, or in the month to 6 month window that we're looking at, or if we're looking at a wider window, that's fine. But I'll throw out an example. One thing I've seen recently, and I mentioned this real quick on Monday's sports card strategy show, is I mentioned earlier that we've seen like these bigger cards of the younger guys that have a lot of love and a lot of hype in the hobby, like the Maxis, the Edwardses of the world. We've seen their bigger cards be a wash. And I wonder if there's a couple different factors at play here. One factor, I think, is that there's some pricing built in within the hobby, because the hobby loves those guys.
Yeah.
So there's some built-in pricing within the hobby. They're also not household names. So there's not a market outside the hobby necessarily for anybody who isn't really familiar with them yet to want to buy their cards. So they haven't like broken through that glass ceiling yet, or whatever, that maybe they will, but but we know what that's going to take. That's going to take them being maybe an NBA Finals MVP or something like that, which is not likely for any player in the league. Now, I think the other factor at play here is that if we rewind back to like March, April of 2021, 2 years ago, that's when we all got the news that PSA was shutting down to catch back up on their enormous backlog, right? So that took away grading from the flipping situation, at least at PSA. A bunch of people pivoted to SGC, which was great, fine, but that didn't really do what was happening prior to that and what is happening now. Now that PSA for almost a full year has been like grading cards at, let's say, a 3 to 4 month clip in a bulk value submission of $19 a card. Now I wonder if the way to make money has now come back to the buy a $10 to $15 raw card and have it graded, because I have made money on those plays with Tyrese Maxey and Anthony Edwards and those guys. So it's not that those players can't make you money, but I think it's getting out of the maybe a stale mindset of like, I've got to now go buy this big card, which you don't have to do anymore because there's grading opened up. Now it's like I can put $30 into a card, maybe have the upside of 150, but only have the downside of maybe like 20. And now you don't have to spend $500 on a card to make 50 or lose 300. So I'm thinking now with all of the purchases I'm making, I'm thinking that way. But what do you think about that thought process?
No, that's a great point. We got to get creative. We got to think outside of the whatever box and say things like buy and grade. But I've had some great success with those recent basketball player cards grading and some not so great success. And it's kind of taught me to say, look, if that comes back a 9, I just wasted $19 and some time. Is it worth it if you're going to possibly get a card, that all of a sudden is worth 5 or 8 times what you paid for it? Yeah, I mean, it's worth it. I've just got to get better at getting other people to look at my cards and say, oh yeah, that could be a 10. That's
exactly.
Me wishing it to be a 10 isn't going to make it a 10. I need the other eyes on it. I do think you're right. Like getting creative, not just thinking about the player, but thinking about the card, the condition, the timing of buy and sell, like what I hope to get out of it. I try to encourage people to have, and I try to think this through myself. Like before I even go shopping to buy a card, do I have some idea in mind of when that card would sell? Like having a selling plan and how I'm going to do it. Because sometimes it is like, I know I want to buy a well-centered, sharp-looking card that I'm going to send off to grading and get it back in time for, next year's All-Star game. It seems like if I'm a basketball card investor looking at current events, I want to be ready for buying at the start of the season. I want to be ready for the All-Star push and any big names that seem to be on the rise. This year was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And certainly the playoffs and the last 4 weeks have gone quickly. And some guys that we were super excited about for like a year, Anthony Edwards won't be playing basketball for another 6 months. So you got to be ready for that. And what's going to happen to those cards. I'm even thinking like the Steph and LeBron thing, absolutely legacy buys, but we could be talking about one of them. By the way, go Lakers with last night's win. Lonnie Walker, what the heck?
Yeah, that's your guy.
But it could be like the next chapter of LeBron James's greatness in a year that he knocks off Steph. Giannis is already out. Like it could be a clear path. Not clear. Nothing's easy, right? Everything's earned. But it could be another chapter in LeBron's. I'm just saying to think ahead to what events are next and buy with the plan to sell when those happen.
Yeah, totally. So we're going to go in 2 different directions here, but like, let's go down. First, I want to go down the legacy buys, which I think is a great agenda item that you threw out there. So LeBron and Steph, and then I want to go down the Cam Thomas, Bones Highland, Greeny Greens in the comments. So I see you, Greeny Greens. So
Greeny.
Then we'll go down that sleeper road.
Hey, Greeny's a Northeast Ohio guy, right? Shout
Greeny
out
Green.
Ohio. Yeah.
Greeny, tell us more about you. We don't know your name. We don't know. We don't know anything. Tell us what you're willing to share in the comments, because we love you.
I think he's an Ohio guy.
All right. Nice. Love it. So we love Ohio guys. Gary's an Ohio guy. So there we go. All right. And then there's some Victor Wembanyama chatter in the comments as well that I want to get to. I see Chad Gill, I see Greeny Green talking about that. So we'll get to that. But Steph and LeBron. So I think you just made some great points about LeBron. I have never been higher on LeBron. I've never been higher on LeBron from a now's another, like, because there was a whole Gary V wave of LeBron rookie cards in 2019. Gary Vaynerchuk was telling everybody these are too low. You got to go scoop them up. And then of course I believe he was right about that. I'd never really checked the data, but I heard the chatter that those things did go from whatever price point he had them at. They 5x'd or whatever from there. And then you obviously had to sell them in 2021 when everything was hot to cash in on that, because they came back down. But I think what I've learned is that with LeBron, a few things about a player and a few things about the cards. The things about the cards are that right now there appear to be some really good deals on his rookie, say, Fleer tradition, Topps base, those types of cards that are not the upper deck, that are not the kind of upper deck crap, junk wax stuff, because he has a whole ridiculous amount of upper deck. But there's a handful, 3 to 5 base rookie cards that are Fleer or Topps ish, or even Bazooka Joe, right? That's another one.
I've got one. Yep.
Sweet. So those I'm high on because you can get them in high grades in CSG and or SGC slabs. And there is a significant movement should they just get the same equivalent grade at PSA. That's not for everybody, but that is a play. And then there's also the fact that you made that there is no shortage of markers going away for this guy. Like, he's already the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He's already a multiple-time NBA champion. What has he got? 4 of them now?
Yep.
So he's got 4 championships, 2 with the Heat, 1 with your Cavs, and 1 with the Lakers. He's got another squad in Los Angeles right now that's winning. Bronny looks like he's going to be a top 10 pick. That's a thing. Okay, because he wants to play with Bronny. We've talked about that before. And then he wants to own an NBA team in Vegas. He's an icon. There's no shortage. He's in a class of his own in terms of active players, in my opinion. Yep. Steph would be like the next, right? But LeBron, I've never really been high on LeBron. I've definitely never been higher on LeBron cards than I am right now. I'm not necessarily saying go out and buy a bunch of LeBron right now because of the playoff run, but I do see so many LeBron plays, and I see him being a buy through, I guess, December. Like, if you can get the right deals on LeBron cards. So anything to add to that?
Yep. I'm seeing some of the best deals I've ever seen on graded LeBron rookies. You mentioned Topps Chrome, like some of those fantastic deals. This may be the time to, if that's out of your price range, get creative and think about trading some of the cards you have to get into one of those cards now while you can. But no, you're absolutely right. And I would say a caution about, like, if you are thinking, if you're planning as a short-term investor on LeBron, that seems like more of a gamble or a bet on Anthony Davis being able to stay healthy than it does actually whether or not LeBron is great. The Lakers run could end at any moment, and it's exciting. I hope it happens. They've got more supporting cast than they had in January, which is great to see. D'Angelo Russell and Vanderbilt and Rui Hachimura. What did he have a game with like 6 threes? Like, where does that stuff come from?
What's going on?
Yeah, but sometimes some of that's the LeBron makes players around him better as long as they have the right attitudes and they do what he tells them. He is kind of a control freak at times, but it's like, what, you going to argue with that? He's been a success. But no, I think, Paul, I think in our notes too, I mentioned to you something about like the pre-Fanatics era, when Fanatics starts to make a lot of the basketball, like when they start to bring a higher profile and get more athletes involved, all that stuff. I see that stuff only. I mean, we're going to see a lot of current and new products and hype. And at the same time, LeBron and Steph are still at the top of this league, right? And everybody's going to want to get those cards. I see a future upside trustworthiness, like draw towards having those players and getting those cards earlier than the next whatever that big wave is in the future.
Yep. I agree. I totally agree. I'm feeling that as well. I'm feeling like now's the time to do some extensive research into what LeBron cards, what Steph cards are what can you afford, and what are the ones that you don't want to just buy LeBron or Steph cards to have LeBron or Steph cards, because there are a lot of junk ones out there, but there are good ones, and the good ones we've kind of named off. You want to go with the Topses of the world, essentially, for Steph and LeBron. LeBron has a Fleer that I think is legit. And then there's the like Bazooka Joe. I'm not necessarily recommending that. I'd do some research into that. That's going to be maybe harder to sell, not as liquid, but still better than any of the upper deck ones. But I think now is the best time to do some extensive research into those guys, figure out what you can afford, put them on your watch list, try to make deals. There's no reason to go out and overspend on this stuff. Gary's really good at that.
I'm good at overspending.
No, you're good at not overspending. You're good at controlling yourself.
You had a great point a second ago, Paul, about buy and grade. I think you could do that with some nice LeBron cards. Like buy a numbered LeBron card from this year, Prism, or a silver LeBron card that looks great, or do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a buy and grade opportunity with LeBron's, because everybody's going to want LeBron 10s of unique cards. The LeBron Net Marvels is one of my favorites. Like those are hard to get a 10 in, but it's just the kind of card. And same thing with game worn stuff of either of those guys. And when I first messaged you about even talking about these guys, I wanted to add Giannis and maybe another guy or two. And I'm like, no, Giannis just got bounced in the first round. Like there's nobody else up there with, I don't want to talk about Durant right now. Like this is Curry and LeBron are the dudes of this generation. And they're still writing their book. They're still writing their stories,
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think if you're ripping a box and you're getting the young guys, or you can find a deal, a play, what the play is. So it's a Josh Giddey optic hollow that looks like a 10. It just really looks like a 10. Maybe you can even get a loop out. Maybe you can even get a ruler out and you feel good about it being a 10. That's a play. Things like that, right? But other than things like that, I think you're looking at narrowing your focus down to the guys that Gary just mentioned. And, maybe there's definitely like other peripheral plays, but I think that's where you're getting into sort of the Chad Gill territory of the market movers research and figuring out, okay, this is where you can buy raw and the gem rate is this, the PSA 9 rate is this is the risk factor's low, or you're cracking and submitting. I'm all about all that stuff, but I think we've evolved from a time where you and I first started making content together about a year ago. We were in a different time where it was like, hey, we can prospect. We can buy this guy's rookie ticket auto. Now it's kind of like, well, I don't know so much. Although let's segue into that, right? Because on your agenda, you also talked about which guys maybe we could prospect. And then Greeny Green says he's buying Bones Highland and Cam Thomas right now because they're dirt cheap. What's your take on prospecting? Who are you looking at, or are you just fading all of the prospecting game at this point?
When you say fading, like I would say I'm not majoring on it as much. I've found a number of guys that I like who I would still consider prospects. It's almost like the first round exits of all of these young teams that are loaded with talent, like Memphis, Cleveland, Oklahoma City, the Pelicans, Minnesota. A lot of the guys that are super young stars. I mean, big names like Anthony Edwards and Ja and Evan Mobley, but also like lesser known names that I would have added to this list previously. I would have said Trey Murphy. I would have said Jalen Williams, the one Jalen in Oklahoma City. I would have said, a variety of names here. And I think it's because it's second round of the playoffs. We're seeing who the real men in this league are. We're seeing Jimmy Butler. We're seeing James Harden. We're seeing the guys that are 30 teaching lessons to these younger dudes. We're seeing, did anybody expect the Lakers to bounce Memphis so quickly after we made fun of the Lakers and their frailty for the whole season, and Memphis has had, 10 guys who could start for any NBA team. Like, we freak out over the young players, and then we get to May and it's like, whoops, this is a man's league. And these are the moments when guys either step up or they don't. And some of them that have stepped up, Paul, I think that's what I've been looking for, is what are the guys that have a chance to become men in the league and step up in the big moments in the playoffs. And so I'm going to be watching Tyrese Maxey closely tonight. I think this is put up or shut up time for him. Like, I as an investor, like as a fan and collector, I love him. As an investor, I'm going like, dude, you cannot come out tonight and go 4 for 16. Like, this is time to grow up and show us what you can do. And so, like, I would say prospecting, it's not just the short term. I'm looking for a Cam Thomas who's going to get a month and I can flip. That's the strategy, and that may work, right? It's worked for some of us, and we've said there was a flip moment. However, now we're in that moment where, on one hand, it's Cam Thomas bargains. On the other hand, it's still, when is Cam Thomas ever, right? I don't have any guarantees that Cam Thomas will ever be a starter in the NBA.
Is he ever, like, is he not, does he not practice hard? Like, what's the deal? Like, why doesn't he, like what, but because when he gets on the court, he lights it up, but he can't get on the court. So, okay. So it's like this theme kind of throughout this episode is that it's almost like focus on the card, not the player, because, and that might be not for everybody. Like, you might be good at sports betting, sports gambling. Like, there's a lot of people that are really good at understanding what's going to happen in a particular game. And, that's like daily fantasy sports or sports betting. And if you feel like, that, like in Gary's notes, he has, who will be the next Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, and Lauri Markkanen. And I know what you mean by that because all those guys, if you would have bought them, say a couple of years ago or 18 months ago, you would have had a large window of opportunity to make money and sell them because they significantly improved as players. Yeah. They all got traded to different teams, and then they significantly improved after the trade to become like all-star caliber players. So if you're good enough at predicting that stuff, which some people are, Gary's kind of saying like, who are the next guys? What I'm saying is more of, I'm not personally that good at that. Like, I feel like that's super risky because, to your point about the Lake, like every year things are going to happen. Like, the Lakers are going to beat the Grizzlies. The Heat are going to beat the Bucks. That happens every year in every single sport.
Right.
So rather than try to predict what's going to happen in a game, I would rather, because there's so many different plays to make in cards, I would rather spend time going down the rabbit hole of what cards can cross over from this company to this company at a particular grade, or what cards could grade out well and have a higher upside with a higher floor, and focus on the players that are always going to be liquid, like the bigger names.
There you go. Yeah. And can I add something, Paul, real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think another strategy that as you get into more expensive cards is what some people call arbitrage. Like, if a card is selling in a range, like a LeBron James patch immaculate card out of 99 from 2019 with his Lakers uniform, I've seen those listed and sell for $99, and I've seen those listed and sell for $350. I'm like, if there are cards that are trading within a window, or take a Jason Tatum PSA 10 Prism, or even the Donruss rookie, you'll see some of them sell for 100, some are 225. I want to be that guy who's there when, some seller that just wants to dump 10 of them is selling them for like 100, 120, and then flip them for 200, when the Celtics advance. Not tonight, though. Maxey's going to get 50. When they advance in Game 7, be that guy that makes money on Tatum. There's an arbitrage opportunity, I think. But that's with, like you said, higher-end players. That's with higher-end.
And the thing has to happen in real life too. So like if you're into that, I get, and like AG cards, I want to bring this in because I respect AG_cards. He's had a lot of great points in the comments about I think a lot in regards to specifically Kevin Durant. So he says he definitely believes Durant will end up being a top 5 scorer of all time with numerous championships. He's on a team on the rise. The Lakers and Warriors are nearing their windows closing. So I don't disagree. Like I actually agree with everything AG cards is saying there. But I think the point that I'm making is that I would rather, to me, the play would be with, let's say, even though the Lakers and the Warriors windows, I don't agree that the Warriors windows closing. So I don't necessarily
right.
everything that's actually not, I don't agree with that. But anyway,
Durant's older than Steph, right? Or it's close. They're like
Durant's a 2007 rookie and Steph's 2009. So yeah, he's in the, I don't know if he's older than Steph, because Steph was at Davidson for 4 years and Durant was at Texas for what, like 1 or 2. Anyway, they're about the same age. I think so that what I mean specifically is that we are in a time period within sports card investing where there are plays to be made for all 3 of those teams and all 3 of those players independently of trying to predict what's going to happen in real life. And because of that, I would rather take the variable of predicting what's going to happen in real life out of it. That's that's the macro opportunity that I believe we're in, especially with basketball cards, because there's a lot of level playing field here. You can make arguments of Durant over KD or Durant over Steph or Steph over Durant. You can make these arguments. You can make an argument. If Philly advances to the finals, you could start to make an argument for Harden. Different things like that start to happen, right? Because it's like there's parity, I think you can dig into each one of these players' cards and find a play where something is undervalued, and there's something that you can do within that card specifically to increase its value, aka grading or crossover grading, things like that. So we could argue all day, like AG saying, like playing with a young Booker. Like we could argue all day what's going to happen in real life. I don't even necessarily want to pay attention to what's going to happen in real life. I want to go to the big name guys, and I want to say these are the plays that are available within their cards.
Yeah.
And then I think we're taking a variable out of it, because if we're not buying Cam Thomas and Bones Highland anymore, and we're buying Durant, Steph, LeBron, Giannis, like the big name guys, the liquid guys, and we're finding the play within those guys, then I think we're reducing our margin for error, basically.
Sure. And Paul, I'm doing both. I'll hit the dollar box for Trey Murphy's all summer, man. But I think we probably should clarify, when it comes to card investing, you're not just saying the bigger names are your focus. You're saying the biggest names.
The biggest.
There's a very small Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Steph. I think Steph has changed the game. Yes. Steph has changed the game. Durant is awesome. Like Shaquille O'Neal is awesome. Giannis is awesome. Like Magic Johnson is awesome. But Steph Curry has changed the game for a whole generation of young kids. And the 3-pointer is now, it's it. That is it. And the Splash Brothers aren't something that Kevin Durant invented. It's Steph Curry is the guy. So I don't think there's an argument, Steph or KD, at all as far as impact on the game or popularity. I think that argument's over, and Durant's needed other guys to help him win titles. Steph, I guess everybody needs 4 other players on the court, right? So
yeah, I think AG cards loves KD, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure, and I never said disregard KD completely. Never said that. But I said he's not in the same bracket as an investment.
I agree.
LeBron and Jordan and Kobe and Steph. I even like I said, I wanted to put Giannis in there because he's younger, and I think he does have some more title runs in him, but he's not. Right? He's not in the class we're talking about.
He's not. I mean, he's becoming more and more risky. He's becoming,
agreed.
And when I look at KD, when I look at Giannis, when I look at Embiid, even Jokic, sorry shoes, when I look at all these guys, I'm kind of going, they have to they have to do something spectacular to become to crescendo and
right.
peak into this Jordan, LeBron, Steph category.
Exactly.
They're just not in.
There's nothing wrong with being Karl Malone. There's nothing wrong with being Hakeem Olajuwon or Barkley of this generation. That doesn't mean you're not awesome, Hall of Famer, top 75, but you're not Jordan.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're talking about.
So you're right, Gary. I'm talking about the biggest names. And Kendall and I talk a lot about this. We haven't actually said these words in like a little over a year, but we used to say specifically like your portfolio breakdown, like how many goats, heroes, and flyers do you have? And I guess what I'm saying is like my portfolio now, there's no reason for it not to look like 95% goats, which are just those elite 3 to 4 names that we just spoke about. And then 5 to 10% flyers. And those would be where maybe I see a Banchero deal, or I see some kind of a fun flyer deal that I want to see if I can make some money on. And if I don't, then I know that I can handle that loss because I've got 90 to 95% of Jordan, LeBron, Steph, as the top guys. So
yeah. Well, and the other thing is like the reason we love and there's such hype around guys like Zion, LaMelo, Cade Cunningham, Ja Morant, Paolo, you mentioned, is that they all come out into, out of college or out of high school into the NBA, and they have they have that huge upside. Like any one of these guys could be the next generation's Steph Curry. They could. Okay. And so we're buying on anticipation and hope. And I'm not saying that none of them are going to get there. I'm saying that there's a lot of question marks right now. And if it's, can LaMelo stay healthy, or will Tyrese Halliburton ever make the playoffs? I don't know. Like, do you know what I'm saying? That there's
exactly
guys with potential, but when you have sure things sitting there, makes it hard to.
That's exactly a great way to articulate the point, is that like, I'm just gonna say it. Like, I'm fading the Halliburtons. I've already bought enough Cades. I'm not buying any more prospect. Like, there's obviously like the Bones and Cam Thomas level prospecting. There's like the Malik Monk level prospecting, or Kevin Herter level. I think this thing
love it.
Like Mikal Bridges. If that floats your boat and that's fun to you, great. I'm just saying what I'm focused on is making money. I've never made any bones about that on any of my content. I'm focused on making money. All of this is fun, but if I'm gonna have fun doing all of it, I might as well make money doing it if it's equally fun to me. And so to me personally, I see the best way to make money now is to stop buying the Halliburtons, stop buying the Anthony Edwardses, and buy the LeBrons, Jordans, and Stephs, unless there's a Tyrese Halliburton BGS 9.5 with a 10 subgrade and other 3 9.5 subgrades that could cross over to a PSA 10 of with a huge upside, and then if it's a PSA 9, it's like a wash. I am looking for those things, and then it doesn't matter who the player is. It kind of does, but it doesn't matter as much. But I want to segue into something that has been talked about in the comments, and you just said the words, unless a next generation level talent comes along, kind of a thing. And that's happening, right? Because we've got Victor Wembanyama about to be the number 1 pick in the 2023 NBA draft. And so I think that there's going to be a couple different things happening with his cards and with Scoot Henderson's cards and things like that. I think that the people that are buying the singles after the initial release of his cards are going to get crushed. And I think that you have to be 4 to 6 months ahead of the thought process here. And so we have some good thoughts in the comments here. We have people like Chad Gill and Greeny Green talking about pre-ordering the NBA hoops, hobby boxes, and then basically
good idea.
Basically listing all the Wembanyamas right away. I think that's where you have to be set up to buy and sell fast. You got a great rookie class coming in. I think you can make some money if you buy and sell fast on those early releases. I still think there's a window. Like, there's a lot of people that have told me, like, I wish I would have bought the sports. Chad actually told me, I wish I would have bought all the Sports Illustrated for Kids Wembanyamas when you were doing it.
Right.
When you were telling people to do it. I will say I got my grades back. They were phenomenal. I ripped them out myself. I tore them out of the magazine myself. I got 3 7s, 3 6s, 3 5s, 3 4s, something like that. Like nothing lower than a 4. The 4s are going for like $150. The 8s are going for like $1,200. There's only one 8 actually, I think. There's the 7s are going for $800-900. And so I just think you have to be you have to be thinking about 4 to 6 months ahead of what the play would be, and you have to be super, super fast. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, I was going to ask you and maybe the guys in the chat room, what did we learn from Zion? Like when Zion came into the league, and I believe Wembanyama can be a lot better than Zion. It's just the point of having an enormous name that's like the next face of the NBA, you know? And I remember when those cards came out, even just the base raw Zion Prism, I was starting out on a budget. I'm like, I'll never get my hands on one of those. Like I missed out on, I'm going to have to like sell 20 of my cards and like my car to get a Zion silver, you know? And here we are a couple years later, and it's like, I don't want to touch his cards at all. And anybody will sell you a Zion rookie. Like, I guess a long term, but what did you learn about the short terms? It sounds like if I'm hearing what you're saying, don't overpay, obviously, for the brand new stuff, unless you're able to rip it cheaply, right?
Yeah.
And even then, you can't guarantee what you pull is going to be centered and nice. I do remember that year pulling, my son and I videotaped us opening just a blaster box of Donruss Optic, and he always has good luck with the cards he pulls. And like, so we're videoing, and the last card is a Zion rookie, and we just went crazy. And then we realized it was like the centering was 2080, and I'm like,
yeah, sucks.
Yeah, it was a tease. And so I'd be curious what you think. Will there be a period where Wembanyama might not be affordable for most people until next offseason, until the Pistons or Rockets or whoever draft him, until they go 25-60 and miss the playoffs, and there's all these question marks about his long-term health? Maybe that's a buying opportunity. Like,
yeah, I think that's true. I think like that's definitely like a takeaway from what we learned from Zion. I think that, you know, to a certain extent, you can predict injuries. Like you've got the Michael Porter Jr., like that, you know, a lot of people saw that coming. You've got like Zion, like Greg Oden, Zion, things like that. Unfortunate. You know, we hope Chet Holmgren comes back and plays and doesn't get injured again, but you start to see like a pattern, and it's, to me, it's all pattern recognition. So I agree with you that there should be some concern about buying into Victor Wembanyama early with any new pro release coming out for him with injuries. I think that there's one play, and that play is being talked about in the comments right now by Chad and Greeny Green and others. And that one play is, if you can figure out a way to buy early in an NBA Hoops hobby box, they're typically not that expensive compared to the other releases. But if you get a hobby box, you should be able to sell most of those cards, most of the rookies, and any serial numbered, and the auto that you get. You should be able to, worst case scenario, sell them immediately for close to what you paid for the hobby box for. And if you do get a Wembanyama anything, you should be able to list that right away and profit from it, and like don't even bother getting it graded, that kind of a thing. But like there is any singles purchase on eBay or anywhere of a Wembanyama card or a Scoot Henderson card, is going to have the prices baked in, and Greeny Green kind of saying, I don't buy rookies that have the potential baked into the price.
Right. That's smart. What do you guys think about, will Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson, like, will this rookie class be a draw enough that there will be lines at Walmart, that there will be a rush on
Probably.
getting anything wax, and maybe the buy and hold play is here again, like buy wax and hold it, or buy wax and flip it will be there again because of the Victor Wembanyama rush? Or is another play on Wembanyama, like say he gets drafted by Charlotte, maybe LaMelo Ball is the play then. Like maybe he raises the level of the superstar next to him, like a Jalen Green in Houston or Cade. If you're lucky enough, that other player, just because there will be a lot of hype this season around that team. They'll be on national TV, and they have a chance over the years to build a title contender around him.
Yeah, I think that's I like that play, but the timing of that play would be now. So if you think that if you think that Charlotte's going to get the number 1 pick, but like start buying LaMelo now.
When is the lottery? Isn't it like next week?
I'm just Googling that. Yeah.
Okay.
like literally this week, 2023 NBA draft lottery probably is next week. I'm going to pull up the exact date here. But yeah, Tuesday, May 16th. So a week from today.
There you
go.
So
you literally have a 1-week window to do what Gary's saying. If you think that Charlotte, Detroit, Houston, if you think the Jalen Green, the LaMelo Ball, or the Cade Cunningham play, getting Wembanyama is going to ultimately spike their value over the next 2 years or whatever, say 6 months to 2 years, then I think you need to buy those guys now. So there's some interesting things in the comments too.
What are they saying? Yeah.
Rocky Empire Sports Cards would love a reason to go to 3 a.m. Walmart friends again. Chad Gill is talking about basically if Fanatics makes Topps and Topps Chrome basketball, which they will. BD Bear Bandit Brett, our friend Brett, says it might initially be unlicensed. Yeah, just because of the licensing situation. Like I could see there being a Topps Chrome basketball Victor Wembanyama set that has autos in it. Or a basketball set with multiple players that has Victor Wembanyama autos in it, but that's not. There could even be like a first Bowman.
That's coming out. Yeah, guys, that's coming out. I just heard on a podcast yesterday, and maybe some of you guys know about this. A Wembanyama auto, a Caitlin Clark auto are coming out in a Bowman set. That's like I think they're trying to branch into a multi-sport set. That it sounds like it's coming out any time now. Like,
all right, that's good stuff.
Yeah, you called it.
That's good stuff, because like now I'm immediately going to list all my Wembanyama SI for kids, because like now now there's going to be competition coming whenever that does get released. That means there's immediate competition for the Wembanyama SI for kids. That answers everyone's question. If you're holding that right now, sell the Victor Wembanyama SI for kids.
I would just look at the release date for that Bowman I'm talking about. I would, you know what I'm saying?
Look at the release. Yeah.
So sell in advance.
Check out sportscardinvestor.com too. I do a monthly article on the releases. So when I start doing my research for the June releases, I'll put something out there, and that'll be a big, if that one is coming out in June. I don't know.
Duke just said it. Bowman Inception. That's what I heard about with the Bowman auto.
Duke Dodson, what up? Owner of Graybo's Sports Cards in Richmond, Virginia, sponsor of the Sports Card Strategy Show, big partner. Check them out in the Arts District of Richmond, Virginia, graybos.co. Bowman Inception is going to have Caitlin Clark and Victor Wembanyama autos, is what we're saying. I've not fact-checked any of this. I trust you guys.
Oh, Chad says late summer.
Chad and I were talking yesterday offline about, I got these Wembanyama grades back. Should I list them now? And it's like, yeah, because I mean, I guess I could wait till the draft to list some of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think, Gary? Like, I'm holding, say, 10 of these. They're still flying off the shelves. It's May. Do I wait until the draft? to
I
list
mean,
them, or do I
if you're talking eBay, you could list them, like I said, at a buy it now
could do a buy it now?
that's
Yeah.
double what what they're going for now, or what you would consider value right
Yeah.
now, and then just see what offers you get, like, or best offer, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Caitlin Clark. So you got to move off of your Wembenyama and your Caitlin Clark SI for kids. Not that they won't be still valuable. They still will be valuable in liquid. But with this new set that we're talking about coming out, if they do have like actual Bowman first autos within this Inception set, but isn't Inception like a super high dollar release? Isn't that like
it's
isn't that like
nice.
a
It's a thicker
National
card.
Treasures type?
It's not as high as National Treasures, but it is a nice thick card, and I'm glad they're re-releasing it.
Cool.
I
Cool.
loved it in football. So
This has been a fun episode. We've had a lot of great stuff to talk about, a lot of audience participation. We've hit some major points, even though we've kind of been all over the map. Gary, you've got like more great stuff in your show notes that you sent over to me. I'd love for you to hit on maybe tell us about your favorite off-season investment.
As far as like a basketball card, like when I say I'm saving for spending season or buying season in October, November,
you have a specific guy.
I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is incredible. I think he's marketable. I think people love him. I think Oklahoma City is on the right path. They've been patient. They've got tons of picks. They've got Chet Holmgren coming out now. They've got, Giddey and all these guys. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a dude. Like, he is an alpha. He is the guy. And, what is he, 4th or 5th on the MVP voting? That's enormous for a dude. We're looking at the trajectory of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the beginning of a team that's built for a long, long time to be a playoff contender. And in contrast, I don't know what the Mavericks are doing. I don't know if Luka will ever get a team that fits him. I don't know if Dallas knows how to evaluate talent and keep it. Like the fact that Jalen Brunson is one of the best playoff performers this year, and they didn't get a thing for him. I'm nervous about buying anything Luka, not because he's not Hall of Fame material, but because his team isn't. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So, But you asked Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because he's got that, he's got it, and because he's got a team around him on the way up. I love Mikal Bridges too. I just don't know what Brooklyn can do long-term. I do know they are armed with a lot of draft picks now from trading Durant and Kyrie, and they've got a lot of young players around Bridges. And I was surprised to see him, break the 30-point barrier so many times in his, 2 months with Brooklyn. So that big market, Mikal Bridges has a lot of potential. I think both those guys are all-stars next year. And, as much as we love Anthony Edwards, I can't say what Minnesota is going to look like. And if they're regretting that Gobert trade for the next 10 years, like,
it is awkward to watch. It's like, just get out of the way. Just get off the court.
Yeah. He could be Jordan or Kobe. Like, he has such an incredible.
I mean, Naz Reid is way better than Gobert.
Oh,
he's way better than
Gobert. So true.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Anthony Edwards, like he honestly looks like LeBron. He looks like LeBron to me the way that he plays. It's like he can just glide in.
He makes it look so easy. And some of these guys realize you're not just investing in the player, you're investing in the team. You're thinking about the general manager and what are they going to put around a Zion Williamson or not, I mean, there are players and let me rip on Scotty Barnes before we go.
Okay, go for it.
You might love Scotty Barnes, but you have to look at Toronto and be like, what the heck? Like, what are you doing? And how are they so bad with so much talent? Like, what is going on? So
I know. So like, this is kind of like a reset episode for me personally. It's like, I'm resetting my basketball card strategy for the record. It's like in the last 18 months, it's been all about like the shiny ball syndrome for me. I've been fortunate enough to be probably right as much as I was wrong, but essentially that comes out in a wash. And so it's like this learning experience of like, this was fun. I didn't really make any money. I didn't really lose any money on basketball cards. And what I learned is enough to tell me to narrow my focus. Now, I've talked about how I'm narrowing my focus, but I also want to make the point that Gary and I have talked about a lot of different names on this show. There's a lot of different sort of basketball debates that do play a role in making money in cards, but not as much of a role. What I want to say to the entire audience is simple. There's so many different ways to make money in basketball cards right now. Do what floats your boat. Like if you like Gary's call on SGA, I mean, I do. But I have to check myself. I can't.
I'm not buying him now. I'm buying him later. 6 months from now.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But like, so he's on your shopping list. So if you like sort of the time frame that we talked about earlier on in the episode of like maybe buying an SGA type of a guy in that fall window and then looking to sell because you think he's on that playoff trajectory, like that, know what your play is. Pick a play that you love, but then don't make more than that, really. Like don't put yourself in a position where you're going to lose as much as you win because you were right and wrong, because you're not going to be able to be right. It's like, I know Duke Dodson, like I know he'll throw the occasional bet or two on a game, right? Well, if you talk to him, I guarantee he wouldn't tell you that he's betting on like all the sports at the same time. I would think he might be honing in on the Kentucky Derby. I think he might be honing in on a particular NBA playoff series. Sort of, I just think if you widen your investment portfolio in sports cards too wide, you're introducing that margin for error to come in. You're introducing the probability for loss to come in at the same time that you're introducing the probability for winning, and then it's a wash. Whereas if you get strategic about what you're buying and what your play is, write yourself a little thesis of like, I think I'm buying this card because I think this will happen and I am going to sell this card at this time.
Yep.
And pick like the 2 or 3 max that you are the most confident about and that you can afford. And I think you're putting yourself in the best position. And I say that because we've had a lot of people come in and say, well, I don't know if you can flip basketball cards anymore. I don't know if but I disagree with that. I think that you just
totally
look at it in that particular way. Hopefully this makes sense. Gary, what do you have to add for today's ep before we wrap it up?
Well, I just agree completely with what you just said. I mean, I still believe in Darius Garland. I bought in Darius Garland when he was cheaper, and I love him as a fan and as a collector. And at the same time, do I have a dozen Darius Garland cards that I wish I hadn't bought yet and instead bought? There were other guys I was liking and talking about, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's one of them. There are so many lanes to run in. Like we got through a whole episode and didn't say the words De'Aaron Fox. If that guy didn't show you what he can do and what the Kings can do, it takes teams a little while to build up their playoff stamina and to build up their playoff nerves. So I think next year, Sacramento, Memphis, Cleveland, some of these teams bounce back. Like, remember the Knicks were awful in their first playoff appearance, but then they got Jalen Brunson and they're moving down. I'm just saying, it's good to be strategic. Buy 1 or 2 great cards of a guy you believe in. Is that what you're saying? Don't get yourself in over your head with one prospect and you bought it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Brett, I think, is saying this in the comments too. Like he had said it earlier in the show, like basically he thinks it takes about 4 years to figure out if the guy is going to be anything or not. Like, and so we're looking at SGA, we're looking at De'Aaron Fox. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is more in the 6-year window, but still that's young. Yep. And so, but what I'm saying is like, don't go out and buy Cade, LaMelo, Jalen Green because you want to try to cover who's going to get Wembanyama, and De'Aaron Fox because you believe in him, and SGA because you believe in him, and LeBron. Don't do that. Don't do that. Pick 2 of those things that you think that and to, like Chad would say, like, go and do, if you go back in the comments on this episode, Chad basically says, and he says this on a lot of our content at nooffseason.com. If you want to upgrade there, you can get a free year. Email me at paul@nooffseason.com. That's why I recommend buy in bulk. Buy 5, 10, 20 of the same card to get the card graded, get 50% gem 10s. Don't care about the 8s or 9s. Make the money on the 10s. So basically what I'm saying is like, do that for De'Aaron Fox only. Do that for De'Aaron Fox only for like with the highest gem rate cards for 1 month. Spend your 1 month budget on that. Send them off to PSA, and then if you have enough still in your bankroll for that next month, then pick one more thing to do that next month that makes sense for what the play is going to be. Then your Fox cards will come back in 4 months. You'll get them in enough time to either sell them in October, November, February, next playoff run, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, Paul. I love it. I love this conversation. All these people.
We're hype, man. We're hyped today. We're yelling at each other. Good work, everybody. Don't forget to get a year free of the premium content at nooffseason.com. Email me at paul@nooffseason.com to find out how. Don't forget to check out graybos.co. Graybos at cards on IG. Hoops and Cards on IG. Hoopsandcards.com. Hoops and Cards the pod. Gary, you are the best, man. Sorry if I dominated this episode, but you're definitely the star.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for doing it. Great.
All right, you got it, man. Audience, everybody. Love everybody in the audience. AG Cards, thanks for the debate on KD. Keep bringing it. Rocky Empire Sports.
KD does not suck. He's awesome. KD is incredible.
KD does not suck. AG, we love you. Brett, we love you. Evan, Chad, Shoes, Rocky, everybody. Tyrese Maxey. Everybody, thanks so much. Have a great day. I'm going to get to the rock music. We're going to jam. See you guys soon.